show going around the world in 24 minutes.
That's right, from Japan to South Africa, there's a lot of cool stuff out there. I'm Phil in Toronto, and we have interviews with Garth Ennis, Fantagraphics, and Carl Macek coming up.
And I am still Nick in New York. We've got a ton of anime like Ghost in the Shell in this episode, so all you otakus, stay tuned to the Anti-Gravity Room.
In Japan, anime and manga are the terms for animation and comic books. There once was a manga cyberpunk anime epic called Ghost in the Shell. It was turned into anime, kicked butt in Japan, and now is hitting North American theaters on a limited release. Marvin Gleicker of Manga Entertainment discusses this Japanese invasion.
Well, when people ask me what is anime, it's really an abbreviation for animation, but it's very stylized. The characters have more development in them, more animation flowing and movement. It has more intricate backgrounds, and the plot is definitely more intricate than a regular westernized animation that you would see on a Saturday morning cartoon show or even in a feature film. Ghost in the Shell is our major theatrical release this year. It's a full-length feature Japanese animation, very highly stylized, and it stars a gorgeous woman who is really a cyber life form that was created to perform espionage into other people's computers and in cyberspace to gather data and information, to spy on weapons and other countries' plans. And she escapes and is looking for a human biological life form so that she can disappear into the background.
Chief, the puppet master's gone. What in God's name? Shut the defense walls now, damn it!
One of the main characters is Major Kusanagi, and she's really a cybernetic person. The only original human part left of her is her brain. And in her quest to find this cybernetic life form, the puppet master, she questions her own existence and whether she's really human or not, since most of her body parts, in fact all other than her brain, have been replaced. And she is in charge of the team of special police force to find the puppet master. Bato is one of Major Kusanagi's specialized agents, and he is more like a Rutger Hauer type character that is real tough and is very experienced in these types of covert operations. The director, Mamuro Oshii, has created a digital generated animation, which is his theory of animation created by images and memory. It's a combination of cell animation, effects, and computer-generated graphics. Some of the scenes that utilize these techniques are the scene inside of the marketplace where they think they've spotted the puppet master and tracked her down. There's also the scenes, there's a classic fight scene that occurs in the streets where an invisible puppet master is fighting against the security forces, and this film has done extremely well in the East. In more Western civilization, in the United States and in Europe, the film has been received with rave reviews, and it seems to be appealing to a more mass audience than any Japanese animation film has done in the past. This could be the biggest Japanese animation film in the world.
Sure, manga is cool and everything, but what makes it different from North American comics? Scott McCloud, author of Understanding Comics, fills us in.
Hi, I'm Scott McCloud, author of Understanding Comics, and today we're going to be talking about Japanese comics, or manga as they're known, and how they evolved. Unlike American comics, which evolved from many different sources and many different artistic influences, Japanese comics evolved primarily from one single artist, a man named Osamu Tezuka, who began making comics in 1945 and continued through 4 decades and 150,000 pages. He influenced most of the major comics artists working today, and he helped found an industry which is now the most successful comics industry in the world. The key to manga's incredible success is in its approach to storytelling. Manga artists employ a host of techniques which are designed specifically to involve the reader, to make the reader feel like a participant in the story, not just an observer. For example, Japanese comics have always been more cartoony than their European and American counterparts. But this isn't just an arbitrary stylistic choice. This is because they've discovered a very important power in art, the power of simplicity. Sometimes a few simple lines can more effectively describe a character than a more detailed rendering, because it allows the readers to fill in the blanks. Just a circle, 2 dots, and a line can be enough to trigger a mental response, which not only tells us that there's a face there, but also feels more like our own face. It's a more personal sort of identity, and Japanese comics often get very close to that line. Another important technique that helps manga artists to stimulate reader involvement is their revolutionary approach to motion. Unlike their American and European counterparts, Japanese artists offer a very subjective view of motion, one that allows the readers to feel as if they're moving just as fast as anything in the picture. Today's popular Japanese comics, the ones that have been translated in America, like Ranma 1/2, Akira, or Lone Wolf and Cub, bear little resemblance to Tezuka's work, but they still have his influence deep inside them. And really, they're like leaves on a tree that you can follow back through the branches and down to the trunk. That trunk is Osamu Tezuka.
So we want to know, what foreign comics do you read?
My favorite international comic would probably have to be Tintin. I, as a kid, grew up with him, and I still read him to this very day.
My favorite international comic is Asterix, and even now I still read it every once in a while because I almost have the whole collection.
I love manga, and I especially can't wait for the Ghost in the Shell movie release.
My favorite international comic is Astro Boy, by far.
When we come back, Phil with CD-ROM reviews and some global cuisine at the International House of Pancakes. Cringe-tastic.
All right, this week we're reviewing Crazy Ivan for what? The Sony PlayStation. And listen to this, it's much like Kiliak, the DNA Imperative. Remember that game? It's a shooter game, much like Doom. But the thing is, Crazy Ivan's more refined. It looks a lot better. Plus, there's nothing like popping a game in and seeing presented in Dolby Surround, because I have the 5-speaker home theater thing happening. I cranked this baby up. The sound is awesome. The graphics are a lot more refined than Kiliak, like I said. And the opening of the game actually is pretty good. No bad acting. Now, as you go up the different levels, you get to change countries. You start off in Russia, you can eventually end up in Japan, you can end up in North America and New York, you can end up in Saudi Arabia, and the terrain is much the same as you'd expect from these countries. A little bit of a tip, though, like in the first level, for example, you get into a certain arena. Now, there are 4 arenas, and then there's a certain item you have to pick up, okay? Now, pick up all your things at the arenas and get out of there, because if you don't keep moving, the Black Knight will come, which is this huge robot, and it'll blow you away, and then you got to keep going over and over again. Crazy Ivan, I have to give it 4.5 Gs out of 5. Why do I take off the half G? Because Psygnosis, the guys who came up with this game, I know they're going to come up with an even better shooter game. Crazy Ivan, check it out.
This just in. Vertigo and Peter Cooper present The System. Corrupt cops, serial killers, crazed bombers, and political scandal are the focus of this 3-part miniseries. Indie Magazine issue number 14 is now available, featuring the UK comic scene and interviews with Billy Tucci, Xander Cannon, and Bud Root. Big Entertainment and Alliance Television are turning John Jake's Mulkin Empire into a TV series. Mulkin Empire was a 6-issue limited series released last year. No food, no water. What comics would you like on a desert island?
If I could take 3 comics onto a desert island, I would take Bone, Scud, and Bone.
Stick around as we continue to cruise the global village with Garth Ennis and Fantagraphics, plus some South African comic strips after this.